Wow. Hello, Justice Warriors. Let's start out with some serious prayers for California. I just caught news that Northern California has been hit with at least a 7, maybe a 7.2 earthquake right offshore, and they are evacuating coastal towns. I just get all teary-eyed. I used to live there. I used to live right near the San Francisco Zoo, and that's one place where they've gotten people out. They're rounding up the children in the town of Pacifica, and for some reason they're putting them on a soccer field somewhere, and I'm just like, oh man. So if you know people in Northern California, make sure that they know. Fred, like when I saw this little news thing, because it was only one of the many channels on YouTube that said anything about a tsunami warning. And it's the full, like level 3, like full blown. At first I thought maybe it was one of these AI channels, and maybe it is. Maybe I've been had. I mean, that's the problem these days, is you just don't know. I wanted to go ahead and verify it though. Can you verify it, Fred? I'm just like all choked up. Super scary. So let's just Google tsunami warning. Truth tsunami, right? See if this is real or if I've been had. Tsunami warning today. 27 minutes ago, yeah. Tsunami warning issued. Okay, so they're saying it's a 7.0 on the Richter scale, the magnitude. And yeah, so very scary. Anyway, I came on to talk about the case with Hannah. You guys know that one is on fire. I've been getting caught up on like everything online that I possibly can in the last 12 hours. And then to see this thing with the tsunami right before I finally come on, because I kept pushing it back because I kept trying to listen to the rest of the videos that I wanted to watch to make sure that I was gathering all of the information that I could possibly gather. And how are you, Fred? How are you doing? Can you hear me all right? Is my sound good? Because my laptop kept telling me that the battery was running low, but it was plugged in the whole time it was telling me that. So I'm like, what gives, man? What gives? So I've got my mic right here, my very, very professional mic. You can kind of see it if I move it like that. But I like to keep it just right off a camera where it can capture all the sound, but not the visual. Let's get started with the Hannah disappearance, allegedly, voluntarily. It's a dumpster fire poop fest, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. Michael McAllister, I saw you in Zav's chat, and I watched all of Zav Girl. I watched some of it last night. She did like a 5 or 6 hour live, and then I caught the rest of it today on double speed, because there was also a JLR live. I think I might have seen you in that one too, Michael. And JLR has always got his thumb right on the pulse. I had not heard before you came on. Sound is fine. Thanks, Fred. Yes, sound good to me, Jazzy. Awesome, you guys. Thanks so much for being here. So Hannah's married. Yeah, legit married. Secret. Maybe not legit. I mean, it's a marriage as far as that type of legit, but it might be like an illegal marriage, because it might have been like a thing for money in exchange for a green card. And at first I thought, well, I better double check Zav's sources, because I don't want to be spreading mis or disinformation if she's been had, right? And man, with SF Investigates on this case, I find it extremely suspicious. I'll just come straight out and say that. I don't trust that guy period. I know Zav was talking him up. JLR and Magnolia were talking him up. Perhaps they're right and I'm wrong, but I seriously don't trust him. My conspiracy theory brain is running, sprinting past the finish line, down the rabbit hole. Oh man, one sec. Still drinking some Java. I got my notes. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation and open up a discussion and learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. How's my hair? I'm just kidding. I don't worry about my hair so much as I worry about my lighting and my sound. So, and I know a lot of people aren't even watching, they're just listening, which is what I do a lot of the time so that I can get the things done that I need to get done. And I do like to watch the videos so that you can see the pictures and the images that people are floating across the screen. A lot of great pictures of Hannah, and then pictures of her at her wedding, allegedly. It's like they're wearing the exact same attire as Lori and Chad Daybell. So maybe one of those like destination weddings where all you have to do is show up. You don't have to bring anything except your credit card. But they're wearing all white and some pretty lei flowers necklaces, and they're maybe not at the beach, but like outside with the ocean behind them and up on a cliff. So yeah, I put one of those images in my thumbnail, and then I put an image of the two of them at a coffee shop too, just so that you can see that this is a real person. This guy, what's his name? Alan Kakaki, Cacace. So it seems, I'm just going to spit it out. Did I do my whole disclaimer? I can't even remember. I better run down it again. Everything I say is simply my opinion. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. I hope that I'm educational, hoping to open up a discussion. Help me out here, you guys. Michael, you're so kind. So very beautiful. Well, I did wash it, and I actually put hairspray in it, which I never do. Because yeah, it does weird things. And by the end of the video, it'll be like all, but I've got my trusty little comb right here. So I'm ready. And I also have a cap. I have a baseball hat, one of the backwards ones. This one actually goes frontwards and backwards. It's like a trick baseball cap. I didn't know they could do that. Okay. Make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider just hitting that button. It does a girl a lot of good for her channel growth and strength and ability. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my silly routine here, and turn on your notification bell to ring. What else? The thumb, my thumb. Okay, please hit your like button and let's roll with this. This is crazy. Okay. Hannah put up a post, you guys, on 11/7, the day before the flight. And I didn't say it, but all four of these people were on the flight. Eamon, who's her ex-boyfriend, Mariana, who's her ex-boyfriend's mail order bride or whatever, in exchange for a visa for some money kind of thing, allegedly. And her boyfriend, Alan Kakaki, who it seems that Eamon set up a marriage between Alan and Hannah. I'm kind of thinking Hannah might have fallen in love with Alan. I don't know. Jumping to a conclusion there. Let's slow down. Let me put that as a question. Do you think that Hannah might have fallen for Alan? Because those things happen in prearranged marriages. Sometimes people live happily ever after, even when they're like both not heterosexual, and they get married for immigration purposes, and then they end up staying in a long-term monogamous relationship. It's pretty wild, but I actually know of a real life couple who did exactly that. and they were as gay can be. So if it could happen to them, it could happen to anybody. So let's see. The post that Hannah put up on 11/7, and it seems like it's under a profile of Midorieve, and it's in Zav Girl's video that I've already linked in the description. She wrote, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Hell hath no wrath like a woman scorned," I think was the precise quote that she put on her post, with a Lauryn Hill Freedom Time music thing. Okay. So let me just jump right to the part that got me the most suspicious. SF Investigates put on the what used to be Twitter, which is now X. He put up an excretion, as they call them, that he thought that the case being this high profile, that even the cartel wouldn't mess with her. This is in Zav's video at the 4-hour and 34-minute mark. I'll put that timestamp in the description too. I'm going to say that again, and I'm going to make it a question. Why did SF post that he thought, with the case being this high profile, even the cartel won't mess with Hannah? So he's trying to say he thinks she's safe, even if she is alone in Mexico, which is what it appears to be from what law enforcement says. I got to tell you, I'm not trusting law enforcement at all. I know that people aren't trusting the family, but it seems like one of these situations where it's like everybody's a scammer. And I'm not trying to point the finger at her family members, because I'm talking about everybody across the boards. Law enforcement, the private eye that's, got such a big, kind, generous heart that he just like volunteers to go boots on the ground in these cases. I can't stand the man. I'll be straightforward, in case you couldn't tell already, right? I would just remember all the shenanigans from the Kylie Rodney case, and ever since, I mean, he's a lying liar. And I'll never forget when he came on to one of Zav Girl's panels with Upchurch and everybody, when, she was at the height of her Zav Girlness. And he was on there for a long time after he'd already been on other channels that same day. And it was like 2 a.m. or something. And he was like, well, I better get off and go to sleep. But then he went right on to his Twitter and started calling Zav the B word. And like, he wasn't going to sleep. I think he was up until 4 posting, trashing her, when she was very, very polite to him. She was very nice. Something happened and LOL. What do you mean, Michael? What happened? Did something happen to my... Oh, you mean with the dogs? They just bark at everything. Anybody who even thinks about walking by our house, they don't even have to have a dog. So you better not be thinking about going by our house, because the dogs will sound the alarm. They're just hilarious. They're such ferocious beasts. So, dang. So it seems as though Hannah Kobayashi, I think I'm saying her name correctly, it seems as though she was part of a marriage in exchange for green card scam, we'll call it, since it's illegal to do that. And that it was her boyfriend who was like mediating the process. So her boyfriend is married to, and her boyfriend's name is Aman, right? He was the one that was on the flight with her. But Mariana, his legal wife, was also on that flight, along with her husband, Hannah's husband, Mariana's boyfriend, Alan Kakasi. I think I have that accurate. So all 4 of them were on this flight, and the 3 of them, it seems, made it to New York City. And as we know, Hannah didn't. She missed her connecting flight. Sounds like she missed it intentionally. It almost sounded like she might have made the request for her luggage right there at the airport when she missed her flight. I don't know. I had imagined that she had called later to try to track down her luggage, because I was thinking that she was on standby and she was still trying to get to New York and she was still going to catch up with her luggage. But now it's sounding like she arranged to have her luggage returned from New York through the airlines to LA right there, right as she missed the flight. So, people have been speculating about why she had her passport with her. And my first thought was, yeah, she wouldn't have her passport unless she was planning on leaving the country, maybe not for good, maybe just to see Niagara Falls because you get a better view from Canada. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe she took it as just a form of ID. And I'm wondering if she has an actual driver's license. It seems like she does, but I haven't really found that out definitively, because I'm thinking if you are in Los Angeles, you're going to want a rental car. And yeah, her money might have been all tied up in the scam and maybe she wasn't getting paid. And that's what the upset was about. And that's why she ditched them. But maybe she didn't have a driver's license, right? She was taking the public transportation. She took the public transportation to the border. Allegedly, this is why I don't trust the law enforcement, because they're telling her family this. They're telling the family that she crossed the border. And they say cross over, which to me is like passing away, like crossing over. That she crossed over into Mexico, and maybe that's a, Freudian slip or something. Let's hope not. And that they confirmed that it was her, and that she told the people at the, whatever it is, the immigration or the, border patrol people, that she didn't have a contact number and that she wasn't planning on having a phone, which seriously, in this day and age, I can't even imagine not having a phone for more than like a day. I used to love leaving my phone at home because I felt free without it. But now I feel lost if I misplaced it 10 minutes ago. I've got this bad habit of just like setting it on some random shelf and then not being able to find it. It's crazy. Michael says, I remember watching that video on Zav Girl's channel. And then he says, she is running away from her own scamming around with her crew of terrible people. I don't know. I think there's so much more to this story. Like, I'm really thinking that even though her family may have a really bad track record and they might be up to no good, I'm kind of siding with them on this, that they are sincerely concerned about her safety and they do have reason to believe that she's being trafficked. I mean, the whole thing with the fake marriages is a trafficking of sorts, right? Did Sammy arrange this scam too? Fred Field, that's a good one. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that she's trying to run away from a crime that she committed, which, a fake marriage like that is a crime. But it was weird because, of course, the LAPD had said, when they said that, she wasn't that she wasn't a suspect of any crime. They weren't suspicious of her in any criminal activity. But, police, unfortunately, tell untruths all the time during investigations as part of their modus operandus to get to the truth. So you really can't trust what they say. I don't trust anything about the father's passing being a self-deletion. I never did. I always wanted to keep the door open on that, but now more than ever. So, people are saying that she was estranged from her whole family, not just her dad. And when I say people, that was kind of from JLR and Magnolia, and I know that they've done a lot of research and they're very thorough. And both that channel and Zav Girl, they're just pouring over all the social media, which I don't do that anymore. I used to, but I'm on YouTube enough. I don't need to be on other social media platforms too. So I'll just rely on the other channels to gather that information and distribute it via the YouTube, and then I'll pick up on it. But also, you don't know how much of that is being catfished, right? I mean, Hannah might have been catfished. We might be getting catfished. This whole thing could be like some kind of social experiment. I mean, with social media and technology and artificial intelligence moving by leaps and bounds, it's entirely feasible that a lot of these cases are tests to see how the lines of communication go, like how good people are at picking up on half-truths or untruths, misinformation, disinformation. Both of the channels I mentioned, Zavgirl and JLR, I'll put links in the description to their videos. They both covered the Nancy Grace videos, the most recent Nancy Grace videos, which I'm proud to say I already watched those prior to Zavgirl and prior to JLR. So it was good to see them getting reviewed on these other content creator channels, because each time you listen to a video or watch a video, you get more information. There's just so much information. You can't possibly grasp it all at once. And who else do we have in the house? Anna Bees, Jackie Bushable. Lovely to see you. Did anyone else get to see CNY's family video on Hannah Case? I haven't watched those, Michael. If you want to share, you're more than welcome to. And yeah, SF investigates. I hope he's ready for that tsunami, man. That is wild. So if you guys didn't hear, I started out in a sheer panic because there was just a magnitude, an earthquake of the 7.0 magnitude off the coast of Northern California, and they are having a tsunami warning in the San Francisco Bay Area. Anybody on the coast is encouraged to, or not encouraged, but mandated to evacuate and to go to higher ground and to go like at least a mile inland or at least 100 feet up or both. I mean, it's serious. They're evacuating the schools and the kids, and it's really wild. Yeah, 7.0, Jackie Bushable. That's huge. That's huge. I think I was in a 7.2 earthquake. I know I talked about it with you guys once before. I'm going to look it up because it was a huge earthquake, and it might have only been like a 6 or something. It was in Seattle. Seattle earthquake. What year? It was before my daughter was born, so it was around the year 2000, 2001. Okay. It was a 6.8. Wow. It probably says on here how long it lasted. It felt like it lasted at least 60 seconds, but it probably was like 10 seconds. Let's see. The Nisqually earthquake occurred at 10:54 local time on February 28th, 2001, and lasted nearly a minute. Yeah. I remember I was at the grocery store in the wine section of all places. I seriously thought it was a message from God telling me, like, get away from the wine. Because here I am standing in front of all these glass bottles full of liquid, trying to figure out what kind I wanted to buy. And then when it occurred, I evacuated the store. A lot of people evacuated the store. It was a small, cute little co-op. It was called, what was it called? PCC? People's Community Co-op, I think. It was very kind of like Whole Foods. It was like pre-Whole Foods, PCC. It was so PC. Anyway, it was in Green Lake, and it was this cute little health food store where we wasted all of our money because really it was way more expensive than a regular grocery store, and we finally wisened up to that. But when we first moved to Seattle, that was pretty much the only place we shopped. It was close by. Trader Joe's was nearby, but the PCC was a lot closer. Anyway, even Trader Joe's was cheaper than PCC. Back on track. So me and a bunch of other people in the grocery store evacuated, which actually you're not supposed to do. You don't want to be outside. You want to go under a desk, under a table, in a doorway. Those are the types of places that you want to be. But I was standing out there in the parking lot on the black asphalt that was feeling like ocean, like liquid under my feet, because that's what happens is the solid earth liquefies. And I remember this giant pole that was like holding up a billboard, giant pole, probably 10 or 12 inches diameter. There were two of them, these steel poles, and they were like spaghetti noodles. And I just stood there with my jaw on the floor, on the ground, looking, thinking, holy crap. Like, and then when it finally ended, it was such a relief. And then I think we got a couple more little tremors, but it was like, oh, but we were fine. Anyway, I'm worried about these people in California. Tsunamis. Whew. I don't even remember what the tsunami factor was back then in 2001 with that. I remember there being tsunamis like in Japan and stuff, actually, from our earthquake in Seattle. Oh, Fred says my wife worked in Green Lake when we lived there. Okay, I thought you were going to say 2001 during the earthquake. Making me hungry, Jazz. I am eating Star Crunches. I don't know. Is that a cereal, Star Crunches? Yeah. Ugh. Seriously, if you know anybody in Northern California, make sure that they know. Because how many people don't watch television, don't listen to the radio, and are just like working at home and, on their computers and not getting the news? For those of us that are on YouTube, we're going to see stuff like that. Although, honestly, my first thought was that it was a scam and that it was artificial intelligence. And I had to watch it for a few minutes before I was like, okay, this does seem legit. And then making sure by looking at other channels too. It's craziness. Absolute craziness. It's like a cookie treat, Jazz. Oh, Star Crunches. Yum. It's the Christmas cookie time of year. I have to try to stay away from sugar, which can be very unfortunate when it's the Christmas cookie time of year, right? Anyway, I do love my protein and veggies, and it keeps me feeling good. If I eat sugar, I just feel like dying, which we don't want to talk about that, do we, here in True Crime Land? One sec. I'll try not to slurp, but I need to guzzle that coffee because, man, I am just really rattled by the earthquake thing. So close to home. I mean, we lived in San Francisco from like 1994 to 1996, I think. We were there just for graduate school. But the first apartment that we had was on the Great Highway, just, I don't know, half a mile north of the San Francisco Zoo. We were literally right across the street from the beach, you guys. And then we moved inland to a really nice apartment up on the hill that the University of San Francisco is on. And then we had a view of the Golden Gate Bridge and the bay and the Golden Gate Park. That was phenomenal. But the school that I went to was in Belmont. So it was like 40 minutes, half an hour south of where we lived. But then I had my internship and I got hired at the psychiatric hospital about half an hour north in Ross, or it was in Kentfield. It was called Ross Hospital. was a psychiatric facility on Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, 1111 Sir Francis Drake Boulevard. I'll never forget. Anyway, so we had a really good experience in San Francisco, and we were planning on staying there for the rest of our lives. We loved it. But then we wanted to have children and buy a house, and that's just not something you do in San Francisco unless you're like a gazillionaire. So we moved back up to the Seattle area where we had moved from. So that's Michael's cute. I'm really sorry that I brought up sugar stuff. LOL. Yeah. Angel address. I know. 1111. Yeah. It was a cool place. And I still have a really good connection with my mentor, who's like one of my very best friends from that experience. She's quite an angel. So, yeah. Anyway, let's talk more about the Hannah Koyaanisqatsi case. Sorry. Like, dang. Koyasaki? Why does my brain do that? It just like malfunctions. I'm just going to make sure I have it right because it Kobayashi. Hannah Kobayashi. I'm glad I looked because I was messing it up. So, Hannah Kobayashi traveled on November 8th from Maui to LAX. We all know this. This is the story that we've been fed anyway. And then she was hanging out at Skid Row. She was hanging out at the Grove, a real nice, fancy mall in Los Angeles. And a LeBron James event was going on there. And I know some people have said, oh, no, not LeBron James. He's associated with all this Diddy stuff. And I don't know to give credence to that or not. I was talking yesterday about my own experience playing on a volleyball team in Olympia, Washington, with a lot of people on the team that were native Hawaiians that had relocated to Olympia. And they had a thing. Sorry. Those women, they were crazy. They had a thing for the professional basketball players. And the professional basketball players had a thing for the Hawaiian ladies. And they would brag about going to the bars and scoring with these married men. And they were married and they had kids. You know, their babies were at home with their husbands and their moms, usually taking care of the babies, because that's how the culture of their culture was, that like they lived multi-generations in the same house. And these women, they all had good jobs. You know, they worked for the state of Washington. They had like government jobs in Olympia that are very sought after, very stable. And, you know, they were all like sisters and cousins and all this stuff. And people from Hawaii don't usually call themselves Hawaiian. They call themselves Samoan, I think. At least that's what those folks did. But it just kind of all came back to me yesterday, like how much of a thing it was. You know, the professional basketball players that they talked about were all Black. I don't know. I don't remember if it was the Seattle Sonics, I think. Yeah, I think it was the Seattle Sonics was the team that they played for. And they were a very successful winning team. So it was like a big deal. You know, it was like they were hanging out with rock stars and they were groupies basically. And they were very religious. They were very like Christian, the way they wanted to see themselves. But then they did all this hanky panky with, yeah, it was bizarre. Anyway, it made me think like, could that be a thing with the African-American basketball players in other places, that they have a penchant for native Hawaiian women? I don't know, but I do know that a lot of people love the exotic beauties. Like, you know, the typical beauties are one thing, but then like the red hair, you know, the ginger, the green eyes, And then when you've got these more like diverse and ethnic looking beauties, it's a thing. People get really obsessed with it. It's like a fetish. That's what it is. That's the word I'm looking for. Um, Anna B says, I think many of the locals in Hawaii have a thing for all athletes. I love it, Anna B's. My husband was 6'5" and they all flocked around him. They thought he was a football player. That is wild. But yeah, a lot of women like tall men. I mean, I'll admit it, I do. Um, and and yeah, I think living in a beach community, I lived in Southern California growing up. People are very like body oriented and athletic oriented, and I would imagine that it's like that in Hawaii since it's all beaches there basically, and it's too hot to wear clothes. So, oh, now the doggies want in. Okay, baby, come on in. Just don't bark anymore. You're too loud. Come here. Everybody wants to see a cute little Mookie girl. Did I draw the heart on your forehead? Yes, I did. I drew the heart on her forehead. Mwah. Oh, she's so funny. She's such a silly little wiener dog. I would always like to tell people she's only half Chiweenie, but she thinks she's all wiener dog. She's smaller than our kitty cats. And if you don't believe me, the last yoga video that I made, both of the dogs and two of our three cats are all on the bed behind me for a lot of the video. It's hilarious. So you can see how she literally is smaller than our cats. And those are the two small cats. We have a giant cat who's literally bigger than those two cats put together. So Mittens was the only animal missing from the collection, and he is like 20 pounds. He's gargantuan. And we got him when he was just a few weeks old with his sister, with Nala, and they were both itty bitty. They were like 8 weeks. I want to say she was probably like, I don't know, I can't remember, 2 pounds 1 ounce or something, and then he was like 2 pounds 2 ounces, and then within a week he was just gaining weight and she wasn't, and then before we knew it he was 20 pounds and she was 10, and it's been like that ever since. It was wild because they eat the same amount, they exercise the same amount. It just goes to show you how different everyone is, metabolisms and such. Okay, there's that silly wiener dog. Okay, am I off track enough for you guys? I'm sorry. I'm just like, she is adorable. She's my baby. She's my pride and joy. She's like 8 years old, I think. And then Coco is about 10. And I just scheduled Coco's radiation treatment. So we'll be getting her started with that. But she's doing very well. We don't even think she has the cancer anymore. It's just preventative. So we're talking about Hannah. We're talking about the crazy situation. So when she was in LA, it was on the 11th, I think, that now the LAPD is saying that she crossed over, that weird phrase. She crossed over the border into Mexico by herself on foot and had her passport. And they know it was her. They have it on video camera, but they won't show the video surveillance to the family. So people are extremely suspicious of the family, which I get. I totally get that. I'm not saying that I'm not suspicious of them. I have been all along. But I think that they might have been doing shady business. And I felt bad for saying that. Even just yesterday, I was saying that I suspected that possibly the whole family had some kind of shady business venture industries, and that's why we were never hearing about what anybody did for work. Not Hannah, not her dad, not the sister, not the aunt, none of them. I mean, have you guys heard a single one of them having a job? I like to say it's a 4-letter word, but it's a 3-letter word. So I guess the aunt, it has like not a YouTube channel, but like TikTok or something. And she's kind of like a van lifer or an RV lifer. And so people are like, well, maybe she's orchestrating all this shenanigans to have her social media take off so that she can actually make money with it, since she didn't have that many viewers or something, that many subs. And now she does, right? It's entirely possible. I had thought of that too. I didn't know that they already had social media platforms, but I thought maybe that was one of the angles, because that's something, that's a thing, right? People think they're going to make money with social media, and some do, but not all. And it's a racket. The social media platform is going to make money off of you, but you might not see any of that money, or you might. It just depends. It's a toss of the dice. So yeah, the aunt, the sister, the mom, people are very suspicious of all of them. I'm not saying that there's not good reason to be suspicious of all of them. I'm just saying that maybe they've been doing shady business, but now something even shadier is going on, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So, which often happens. I mean, this is why it's good to try to stay on the straight and narrow, because, there's no honor among thieves. And it sounds like Hannah was maybe in an exchange relationship with that guy, Alan, where he was going to get his visa and she was going to get paid, and her boyfriend had set it up. What was his name? Amon. And Amon was married to Alan's girlfriend, Mariana, and Amon was getting paid for that so that Mariana could get her visa. But it kind of sounds like maybe Hannah was getting shafted and wasn't going to get paid, and that's what transpired this whole crisis, if you want to call it that, because it is a crisis. I mean, I was very skeptical at first, like, why is this even a thing? Why is this on the news? There's so much information missing. I'm not buying any of it. And now that more information is coming out, I am kind of buying into something's going on. And I'm concerned for her safety. And like Magnolia brought up a good point, that even if she wasn't in danger, now she could be, because people on the outside looking in might think of taking her hostage to turn her in for a ransom. I mean, I trigger warning, and I don't even want to put those words out there. Can I take them back? But hostage is a word that's come to mind. So even if she crossed the border by herself, she could have been instructed to do that, right? And then that whole thing with the twin flames. Fortunately, I'm pretty familiar with that twin flames, and I'll run down what I know of it, and for people that don't know about it. It's a CLUT. I learned about it from the channel Let the Fresh Air In, which I discovered her channel when I was following the Casey Taylor. I think it's Taylor Casey case, the woman from Chicago who went to the ashram in the Bahamas and then went missing. And Let the Fresh Air In was covering that case because she thought it sounded like a CLUT. And I think she's right. MC3PO is here. Woohoo. Yeah, it is great news about Coco. Thank you, Anna Bees. I'm so unsure about the marriage green card issue. Well, it is, I think, a fact that that's going on. But so remember her text that she was sending where people were saying this doesn't sound like her. And she said that she lost all of her funds to somebody that she thought she was in love with. And I'm thinking maybe she fell for Alan and she thought that they actually had like a relationship thing. And then he took advantage of that so that he wouldn't have to pay her for the marriage and for the visa. But maybe Amon still got paid his cut. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking she might have fallen in love with Alan, but that things got all wonky and that she ditched all three of them. And I'm still of the mindset that maybe there was other trafficking involved too. Like maybe that is why they were taking her to New York. That was a Freudian slip. they were taking her to New York. See, all this time we were like, oh, she was flying by herself to go visit her aunt. But was she? Or were they taking her to New York and she said, hell no, I'm not going. This is where I get off. I kind of think I might have just accidentally stumbled into what was really going on. I think that they were probably taking her to New York and then they lost their product on the way to the exchange. And then they showed up and they didn't have her. But why in the world would SF say that bizarre statement in his post? It was actually in a comment on a post on X. And like I said, it's at the 4-hour, 34-minute mark in the Zav Girl video that her live from last night that I already linked in the description. So on social media, he says that he thought with the case being this high profile, even the cartel won't mess with her. Why is he talking about the cartel? SF? Why are you talking about the cartel? So I am extremely concerned for her well-being in that guy's involved with her case. I'm not buying the whatever it is that the police are selling because they weren't being honest with anybody for up until 3 days ago or so, when then they said, okay, now we're going to be honest and tell you guys that we already knew that she crossed over on the 11th. Cars that don't tell thank you, MC3PO. I forgot. I'm just so flustered. I'm so flustered. So yeah, I was trying to absorb all of the information that I could on the Hannah case so that I could keep my own self updated, but then talking about it here in the live with you guys, I could be as updated as possible. So if there's anything that you think I've missed that should be included, please go ahead and share. But see, I'm wondering if her whole family wasn't, and again, this isn't to, try to throw shade at them or make them shameful in any way. I wonder if they weren't kind of a family of grifters, again, being from Hawaii, super expensive place to live. I think Maui is one of the very most expensive places to live in the world, actually. I know San Francisco, New York, Alaska, they're all way up there. And there's a lot of expensive places to live. I mean, life is just expensive these days, no matter where you live. But anyway, being native to the land and then living on Maui, and what do you do for income, and how come nobody's talking about, that they were in the medical field or education or Amazon or whatever, like nothing has ever been said about any of their professional businesses. And that is usually part of somebody's profile, right? I mean, we knew what was going on with Kylie Rodney's family and Scammy's family and Jägermeister's family and the Hamburglers family. We knew the businesses that they all had, and you have to have something to be living in Maui, in my opinion. So maybe they were crafty and did things that might be a little shady. And then, I had kind of speculated that in the event that her father did self-delete, that might have been part of it, was that he felt guilty for exposing her to this whole underworld that she was getting consumed in. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily buy that he self-deleted either. They say that he was discovered at 4 a.m, or that he did it at 4 a.m. But like between 3 and 4 a.m. is when the really bad things that happen in the world, like most often that's the time frame that they happen in. Not just in the Idaho 4 case, because again, they pushed that to after 4 anyway. But anytime that you're looking at self-deletion or criminal activity, that is the most dangerous hour of the day, between 3 and 4 a.m., which is why a lot of police officers like working the night shift, because they want to be able to fight crime, and that's when the crimes happen. So, yeah, MC C3PO says crossed over usually means unalive. Hey, Truth Tsunami. I also think it's weird the SF is involved. And don't you live in California? You know about the tsunami warning in the Bay Area, right? I've been just kind of hit with that right before I came on live. Like, I was like kind of like crash coursing myself in Hannah's case, even though I've been following it all along. It's like so much has exploded in the last 12 hours with the whole marriage thing. And Zavgirl was one of the very first places that I saw that had that information. And I didn't know if she was being had or not. And then JLR had that information. A bunch of people were having that information today. And I'm sure a lot more will continue to have it. So yeah, it does seem that she actually was married to this guy, and that his girlfriend and her husband, who is Hannah's ex-boyfriend, if you can follow all that logic, that all 4 of them were on that freaking flight. And it was not revealed until just like overnight that all 4 were on the flight. It wasn't revealed that Amon was married. And then to know that he was married to the girlfriend of the guy that's married to Hannah. Wow. Unbelievable. And yeah, maybe Hannah wants to get away from all of them. Maybe she doesn't feel safe. Maybe they are trying to lure her back, like her mom, her sister, and her aunt. Maybe they're trying to lure her back so that she doesn't let the secrets out for all of their other business ventures, right? I mean, that was kind of a thing that some of us thought with why whatever happened to Kylie Rodney happened, was that maybe she was silenced. So maybe Hannah has escaped in efforts to not be silenced. But maybe she was silenced. Maybe that's why the police used that phrase that she crossed over on the 11th. I mean, if they're not going to show the video footage or some kind of proof to at least the family, like, they don't need to show it to the public. But if they're not going to show it to the family, again, they could be misleading the family, trying to catfish the family in their own investigation of the family's criminal enterprise, for all we know. Everything I say is simply my opinion, allegedly, in my conspiracy theory. Crazy. They just lifted the tsunami warning. Okay, good. Yes, I live in Southern California. Oh, did they lift it for Northern California too? Hey, Sigali, Michael says, happy Thursday to everyone. That's right. It is Thursday. It's December 5th. It's almost 3:30, which means that my house is just about to burn down. I used to say that when the kids were small, when they would get home from school at 3:30, it's like the house is on fire. So, yeah, it's true. It happens. Even though they're not small anymore and I only have half as many kids in the house, still, it's like they light it on fire when they walk in the door. They walk in the door and they explode. Backpacks, jackets, shoes, everything just like flies off. And there's like huge messes in the entryway. And then they burn the place down. So prepare. We're just about 10 minutes away from that. You'll hear them explode as they walk in and they slam the door like they're trying to break the house. I'm just like, ah. Anyway, again, if that's my biggest problem, I'm seriously lucky. So Tsunami Sigali says, I don't believe he unalived himself either. The coroner said he had several blunt force trauma to the head. Interesting, because I heard the blunt force trauma, which is the type of injuries that are consistent with a big fall, but several to the head would not be consistent with a big fall, unless, I guess, if he hit several things as he was landing, like if he hit stairs as he was landing, or hit a rail and something else. Or, I mean, people bounce, you guys. I'm sorry. Trigger warning. If you've ever seen anybody get hit by a car flying through the air, people bounce. So I would imagine falling a distance like that. He was on the 7th floor, I think, of the parking garage, they say. It could be that, some of the blunt force trauma to the head was from the initial landing, and then he bounced and got subsequent blunt force traumas to the head. So yeah, I think that blunt force trauma is just how those types of injuries are described, and they are consistent. Those types of injuries are consistent with getting beat up, right? So it's hard to say, like, did somebody fall down a flight of stairs, or were they roughed up, right? I think that her dad was silenced too. Right. Like right away with that crime scene, again, it needs to be treated as a crime scene so that that can be ruled out. Any unattended unaliving needs to be treated as a homicide, as if there's foul play, until all foul play options are put to rest. So it seems to me that they very quickly came to the conclusion that there was no foul play. And normally the way that's phrased is there's no foul play suspected from the preliminary findings. But it didn't seem to me that that's how the information came across, except then later they started talking like that. Probably when people are like, wait, how come you're not saying the preliminary findings thing? Doesn't appear to be. Why are you drawing conclusions so quickly? So, and Tsunami says, this case reminds me of Chelsea Grim. And I am confused which one is Chelsea Grim. I'm thinking the one in Arizona. Because I know, like Nancy Grace has brought up the Gabby Petito case with this one, which I think I did too. And then she brought up the Deborah Collier, the woman who went to like a Dollar General or a Dollar Tree and then texted her daughter and Venmoed her like $2,300 and said they're not going to let me get away or something. I didn't really follow that Deborah Collier case. I think it was Georgia. But Nancy Grace keeps comparing it to that because of the 2 Venmo payments. And yeah, we also had Venmo payments in the Idaho 4. We also had Venmo payments in Kylie's case. So, yes, for both Southern and Northern California, Southern Oregon too. Right. And those tsunamis can go all over the world. It's possible, but I think it's still weirdly convenient that he was there searching for his daughter and then boom, gone. Well, so I started to say, I've said it probably in every live that I've done on her case. It reminds me of the story of Fargo straight off the bat, because, that's a story about a guy who is married to the daughter of a very wealthy man, and the guy is corrupt and he's trying to extort money from his father-in-law. And so he sets up a fake kidnapping of his wife. So she doesn't know it's a fake kidnapping, but he knows. And he's like, what could possibly go wrong, right? With a couple of thugs that he doesn't really know who fake kidnap his wife. And it's supposedly a true story, but I don't know if it actually is or not. Again, something that we could look up on the Google or Snopes, but those two lie anyway. So it's a plausible story. So, the guy has his wife fake kidnapped, and then she ends up passing away just because these goons don't know how to feed and toilet a hostage. Like, they just leave her tied to a chair and they don't give her water, they don't give her food, they just leave her tied to a chair, and then she passes away. So, and then one of them passes the other one away. I won't blow the storyline for you. Um, but a lot of other people pass away in the story too. So there's a big scene with the ransom money and the suitcase full of cash that the dad is instructed to bring. Oh, wow. As I'm saying this, dad is instructed to bring on the top of a parking structure in downtown Fargo, North Dakota, right? And it's like cold AF. So the granddad has the suitcase of cash, but he's a businessman that's always gonna win the deal. So he's playing hardball, and I think he ends up getting unalived, and a couple other people get unalived. I think 3 people get unalived on top of the parking structure. And then then you have the woman that was kidnapped, you've got one of the kidnappers, and then you've got some other folks. Like a lot of people passed away because of this douchebag son-in-law that thought, how can I extort a bunch of cash from my wife's father who's cut me off, right? um, so yeah, it could easily be something like that. I mean, there was all that talk about her saying that she had a big inheritance coming, and maybe that was what she meant. What she wasn't going to say was payment for a grift of a marriage, for a fraudulent marriage. So she was pretending that it was inheritance. Who knows? I'm thinking that all kinds of stuff went awry. That's what I'm thinking, is that there were criminal enterprises like what she was involved with her ex-boyfriend, what Alan and Mariana were involved in, and then other stuff, maybe the trafficking of substances. It's said that Hannah did like to use psychedelics and maybe some other stuff too. I'm not sure. Again, I don't want to be shaming anybody or throwing shade at anybody. But it doesn't seem like there's mental health issues, except like SF Investigates has tried to say that there's mental health issues. And I'm like, yeah, well, coming from you, whatever he says, I'm going to believe the opposite is true. I don't see any signs of mental health issues. I mean, honestly, people are saying, well, maybe she was manic, maybe she's having a bipolar episode. I don't know. I don't see any evidence of that, but we don't see a lot of evidence of anything. That's the thing that's been so bizarre about this case. Usually we're not going to be covering cases and talking about cases on YouTube if we have such giant holes of missing information. I mean, we don't have much to go on. We never did. And now we're finding out why. They didn't want people to know that she was out of the country. They didn't want people to know that she'd crossed over, whether that means out of the country or something else. They didn't want people to know that she was in a fraudulent marriage. What is going on with all these cases? Michael McAllister says. Right. So he's there searching for his daughter, and then boom, gone. Right. And yeah, what did he know? There was certainly stress in his connection with his daughter, which he attested to that in interviews with the local news and such, that he was there looking for her, trying to make up for lost time, that they hadn't had a good bond, and that he was hoping to make up for that. But it sounds like there was not the best bond with her and her sister, although her sister is trying to claim now that they were very tight. It doesn't really sound like they were. And then the mom and the aunt are trying to act like everybody was really tight, but again, it doesn't sound like they were. mean, she's 31. So, I mean, a lot of people at that age are going to be just living their own life, even with their relatives living nearby. They're going to be doing their own thing. I mean, some people hang out with family members more than others. But has it even become clear if Hannah had her own place? I read something about her having a home that she owned that was in the process of being sold. Have you guys heard about that? I'm not gonna like stand on that because I think I only read it one place, and it sounded like she had a home and that it was in transition. Because I've been really curious, like, did she live with her parents? Did she live with her boyfriend? Did she have her own apartment? So it sounds like her name was on the deed for a house that might be in the process of getting sold. So that could be another big scam. I do not know. Okay. Chelsea in Arizona. She was actually on Kylie's search party list. Oh my goodness, Sagali, you're kidding. I know I've read a little bit about Chelsea's case. I didn't pick up the connection that she was on Kylie's search party list. Wow. And, I always like to go back to our redhead. What's our redhead from that? Kylie Rodney and Andrea Stanio's daughter. It'll come to me. Summer Fowler's son's girlfriend. Totally escaping me at the moment. Anyway, it'll come to me, or you guys can tell me. Andrea Stanio's ex-husband that she just reunited with and just moved back into his home, Christopher Stanio, was a deputy, boots on the ground in the search for Kylie. And then 3 months later, his daughter-in-law, Trinity Backus, thank you. I was just like complete brain dead. I just kept thinking, Hannah. So Trinity Backus, when she went missing, again, the fact that they didn't just come out and say how wild this is, that Deputy Chris Stanio was part of the search party for Kylie Rodney, and then 3 months later, his stepdaughter goes missing. The fact that they didn't just put the obvious out there makes it suspicious, in my opinion. I mean, it's already quite a coincidence, right? And then later to find out that he's got that identical twin brother, Matthew Stanio, who just so happens to be a California State Highway Patrol trooper. Huh. How interesting. Let me close my studio door. They didn't burn the house down yet. I just heard the front door. It didn't slam. It didn't cause a tsunami, but yeah, Trinity too. So they tried to say Kylie was not in her right mind, and Chelsea too. They always say that. I know. I was saying that in the chats that I was in. I think it was in Zav's chat last night. I was like, yeah, chicks are crazy. That's my favorite quote from the Watts case, when Tammy is finally getting Chris to crack, and she does it by saying to him, chicks are crazy. And then he just the floodgates open and he tells the truth. It worked. Her saying that totally worked. And yeah, that's always what everybody tries to say. It's just these crazy chicks. Kylie was crazy. Chelsea was crazy. Trinity was crazy. And then, Hannah's crazy. I mean, again, that whole root of the word hysterical is wandering uterus. That's what being hysterical means. It means that your uterus is wandering. And it's a very sexist term, and it was developed by Sigmund Freud, I believe, because all of his patients or clients had wandering uteruses, which was what their diagnoses were and why they were needing treatment. So essentially, in complete alignment with J.D. Vance, that they just need to get married and have kids, and then everything will be fine, right? Yeah. Again, The Handmaid's Tale. So, yeah, Trinity Backus seemed like she was on some substances that night. Kylie doesn't seem like she was even intoxicated. I don't know enough about the Chelsea Grim. Was she the teenager that left her house? Maybe I do know about that one. That lived out in the middle of nowhere. Trinity was at Kylie's celebration of life. Do you know that for a fact? Because I've wondered. I know that Trinity's boyfriend's mom was there helping officiate it, right? She was helping orchestrate it. Summer Fowler or Sunshine Fowler, I think it's Sunshine Fowler, was really good friends with Lindsay, Kylie's mother, and they both had these high priestess positions with the church or the CLUT that they were a part of. And then the whole thing with Trinity's boyfriend, do I say his name here or not? Minnie Fowler. We'll just say, I might have said it earlier already. Anyway, Sunshine Fowler's son, I'll just say it, Francis Fowler. He's not a minor anymore. He might have been back then. He might have been 17 or 18, but he would be definitely over 18 now, 2 years later. So Francis Fowler, I don't know for a fact if he was at Kylie's celebration of life. I would think maybe because his mom knew her mom, that maybe he knew her, and that maybe his girlfriend would have been there too. But I don't know. I've never really had that confirmed. I'm curious if you've had it confirmed. Yeah. Thanks, Tsunami. She was on the search party tracking app. I can't remember what it was called. Right. Was it the Topo thing? Cal Topo or something like that? Yes, Trinity was at Kylie's celebration of life. That's too much. Trinity's boyfriend at the time of death was the Fowler kid, who's grandson of the lady at Kylie's celebration of life. Oh, I think he's the son, not the grandson. I think the son. And he was also the boyfriend of Paisley, right, which, thank you, I was trying to get to that. Paisley Woodard, who passed away almost exactly a year prior to Trinity. So Trinity disappeared November 7th. And then Paisley had been hit by a car, I think around November 1st, the year before. And then the girl who ran her over didn't really get justice. But yeah, I've heard that was another girlfriend of his, which I haven't done enough research to confirm that myself. Chelsea was on her way to a wedding on the East Coast and disappeared in Phoenix. Okay, thank you. Dang. These cases are crazy. These chicks are crazy, huh? All these damn wandering uteruses. I'm going to have to change the title of my video to Wandering Uteruses. Wandering Uteruses Gone Crazy, right? Kind of like the chicks on the spring break gone crazy. Yeah. What else do you guys want to talk about before we wrap up? I'm just noticing that it's 3:45 already. So, man, I can't believe Zav did this 5 or 6 hour live last night. She is a rock star. And then, JLR just does live after live after live. He is on fire all the time. Me, I just try to do the one a day, and then I try to videotape my yoga every other day or every day or just once in a while or not at all. I like videotaping it for you guys, and it helps me with my practice, but it's such a pain in the rear end too that sometimes I just don't videotape it because it's a lot of work to get the lighting and the camera and the sound, and it's just every little thing. Such a pain in the rear end. Cal Topo, yes, tsunami. So, yeah, if you guys don't know Tsunami's or Sagali's channels, I think she has two, right? Do you want to name them here? And if C3PO is still here, they can do a hyperlink. Because I know that I am very familiar with one of your channels, but not the other. Because isn't one of them called Sagali? And then is the other one called like What the Fact or something like that? Kind of like Just the Facts, ma'am, or WTF, kind of a cross between the two. So yeah, I hope that people are free and clear of a tsunami, but I think that the tsunami takes a long time to come. I think they were saying that it was expected at around midnight, but that they were also concerned about something immediate. So I think that that's still on the table. I think it's weird that Chelsea's parents didn't want her belongings. Yeah, that's super weird. Super duper weird. Just like it's also weird that uh, Madison Mogan's parents didn't want her ashes. That Kaylee's family, the G family, kept the two girls' ashes together. Maybe like even in the same box. I don't know. But that really hit me as odd. I put a message I found regarding Chelsea on my community page. Please go read it. Can I read it right here, right now? And make sure I get your channel right. Help me out here. Is it the tsunami one? Sagali? Um, I love your profile picture. It's so cute. Regarding Chelsea Grimm, can I read this out loud, dear? Um, this is a day ago. Chelsea is a friend of mine. We went to high school together, a therapeutic boarding school in Montana. Something that seems to be mostly unaddressed in her case is that Chelsea has wilderness experience. Oh, that is important, huh? She went to a wilderness program for a number of weeks. And let me just add that that would be similar to Kylie Rodney and probably even to Trinity Backus, too. If you're going to live in the Sierra Nevadas, you're going to be experienced. She went to a wilderness program for a number of weeks, possibly second nature, before school. She has knowledge on how to start a fire with a bow drill, wound care, lots of backpacking experience, building a shelter, etc. Again, just like the people with the Donner Party, right? All I can hope is she's put it to good use and is somewhere safe. A 3-mile radius is not enough. She could hike much further than that quite easily, I believe, with her background in backpacking. She is also the victim of the troubled teen industry, which may have impacted her mental health, as well as her willingness to ask for and receive help from strangers. Wow, that is scary, being a victim of the troubled teen industry, big time. She has experienced pretty significant trauma in her young life. I don't know if this info would change your analysis, but I think it's worth considering. Thank you for sharing her case, Dr. G. Chelsea, if you're out there, there are people that love you. I love you, Mal. Aww. So, um, Yeah, that's a really good post. And yeah, and I think it really applies to Kylie and um, Trinity as well. And yeah, whenever somebody has a history of depression or the wandering uterus syndrome, anything at all, troubled teens, it's really easy to paint them into a corner and make out like they're the crazy one and the things that they're saying aren't true, and putting them in a straitjacket rather than looking at any kind of victimization that might be going on. Um, Sandra Lankford is here. Yes, remember Sammy said that about Kylie. Did she? I don't remember Scammy saying that about Kylie, but I remember that about the Hamburglar. The Hamburglar was part of that troubled teen program, right? For getting troubled teens sober. Oh, man. Yeah. So, I don't want to sign off now that Sandra just got here, but let's just talk about Madeline Soto's case real quick before we do sign off, because I know you're right there in her neck of the woods. And uh, Polar Plunder and Ninja Chihuahua have both been producing really good content, filling in a lot of gaps with the storyline, with the timeline, with how things went down, the lies, the crimes. It's so freaking awful. It's so freaking awful. So, just off the top of my head, when her horrible mother, Jen Soto, said she's talking, I think she's talking to law enforcement, and she's telling them that she spoke with one of Maddie's friends and that she asked the friend if she saw Maddie that day. And the friend told Jen that she didn't make any of her periods. That was the language Jen used. And it just got me back to thinking about Freudian slips. What are you talking about not making it to her periods? Are you talking about her classes, that she didn't make it to her classes? Or are you talking about something else? Because I am convinced, I said it in my most recent videos about, I've said it from the beginning with my suspicion that she might have been preggers and that it wasn't something that would be fully revealed to the public because it's just too much for us, the public, to wrap our minds around a 12-year-old being assaulted and violated and impregnated by a 40-year-old guy. I mean, I know she was 13, but she would have been 12 when that happened. And he's definitely up for the capital punishment, as he well should be. And nobody's going to have a shred of empathy for him other than his mommy and daddy, who I'm thinking are just as bad as he is. The more that Paula and Ninja dig, the more they look like lying pieces of crap. So, for instance, Chris, Stephen Stern's father, said that he went straight from Northport to where they were, Kissimmee or Orlando area, the night that she went missing, so that he could pay for the hotel room, right? So it's like a 3-hour drive from Northport to Kissimmee. And he got there about 2 a.m. And then come to find out, he didn't pay for their hotel. They were already checked into their hotel. He reimbursed them for the pet fee. He could have done that the next day. So I'll give credit for Ninja Chihuahua for, I'm kind of quoting her on one of her last videos. But why would Chris be lying about why he drove straight there like it was an emergency? Like they couldn't check into the hotel room without him there. They were already checked in. They'd already paid. He reimbursed them for the pet fee. He didn't recover the hotel room. They didn't need him there to check in, but he lied and said that they needed him there to check in and that he paid. So what's he covering up? Was he helping destroy evidence? Was he helping cover the whole time? It sounds like it. Like, why would he lie about that? It's effing nuts. Maddie called SS from her party. He was mad and left to go there. Was Maddie running away like she told her friend? Annie Ruler, I think I caught wind of her calling him from the party, but just barely. Like, it didn't really set in until I read your comment there. Thank you for that. Chelsea was also brilliant. She had a bachelor's degree. And Annie Ruler, that would definitely have a lot of people wondering exactly what she meant. Yeah, she never made any of her periods. The cops noticed, I'm sure. They were like, excuse me? What are you talking about? Dad on a jail phone call discuss the birthday party call. Ooh, Annie. See, I only like half cover the Maddie Soto case because it so makes me want to hurl. Like, my stomach is just not strong enough for it. That's so freaking disgusting. But now you're making me curious. I'm gonna have to check that out. So I know Watts the Obsession is doing a live chat tonight on the Hannah case. So anybody who's interested in that, Kelly always does a great job. So I'll probably try to be there for her live. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off since we're coming up on 90 minutes and I just kind of putter out at around this point. I really appreciate you guys being here. I really appreciate you supporting my channel and being in the chat and watching, and much love, Annie Ruler. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, we got to get justice for these folks that can't speak for themselves. And what's going on with Hannah? Can she speak for herself? Is she running and hiding? Did she cross over? WTF? Like I don't fully trust her family. I want to be clear about that. Like, I don't know if they're trying to lure her back into their lair so that they can control her, or if they're really, I think that they are really concerned about her safety, but I get the feeling that they're concerned about other things too. That's my opinion. Astro from space. Hey family, how is everyone? Oh, my dear. Thank you for coming in and saying hi. I was just signing off. It's just about 4:00. So I do need to go, you guys. Much love and light. Make sure that you take good care of yourself. I'm not trusting her family. No. I'm not trusting anybody. I got to be clear. I'm not trusting law enforcement at all. I'm certainly not trusting SF investigates. And it frustrates me that some of these good content creators are trusting him, because I'm like, am I in left field? It used to be nobody trusted him. Like, they're acting like, well, he's doing good on this case. Like, I don't think he does good anywhere. And if you've seen video footage of him lately, like in the Nancy Grace interview, he looks like a completely different person. And he's like all bloated and weird looking. He's like all stiff and he looks like he's like all stuffy. Like, I don't know. I think he abuses a lot of stuff, I don't think he takes good care of himself at all. I heard Maddie was possibly rugged like Odie. Yeah, it's entirely possible. Yeah, Annie Ruler, the crock on the mom's dresser feels like mom may have done it. Yeah, Fred Field put that in the comments to one of my videos where I was wondering where the other crock was, because there was one in the garbage with the laptop and her backpack in the dumpster. And I was like, oh, the other crock, where is it? And when Fred said that it was in her mother's room, I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, I was thinking outside somewhere, maybe in the apartment, but not necessarily her mom's room. I was thinking more like her room. That's really effing creepy. And especially on her freaking dresser, even creepier. That means she picked it up and set it on the dresser, in my opinion. Um, and yeah, it sounds like Stefan was abusing some of the Adderall that Maddie was prescribed. And yeah, I think a lot of victims are rugged when they're victimized and when they're being filmed and photographed and abused. And it's easy to overdose somebody, especially if it's a roofie. It's really easy to overdose somebody. So, but I get the feeling that it was intentional with her, that it was not accidental. I mean, maybe she was rugged for the abuse, and then I don't know. It's so terrible, terrible, terrible. True story. I'm not at all. Yeah, not trusting. I know you can't trust these people. Have a great day, Sandra, and everyone. And C3PO says Kylie's family was so obvious in their BS about not worrying about her. Sussay F. Well, and SF being on the shoreline with dad and grandpa when Doug from AWP was informing them of the discovery of her vehicle with her in it. And then SF being blurred out. And you know it's him because of his big Sasquatch tattooed arms, but his face is blurred out. It's weird enough that he was there with them, but why'd he blur himself out? Like that. Hannah's family very concerned, and yet that comes off as sus. Right, because they right away went to, oh my God, she's being trafficked, which, yeah, if they're from that world of that being a thing, you know, like with OnlyFans pages, with Craigslist back page, with that kind of thing, then yeah. And if she's involved with that whole kind of trafficking of fraudulent marriages, and maybe she was traveling to New York City for some business ventures labeled as photography, right? Again, SF Investigates is a photographer, but a lot of CP is done by photographers, right? Croc lodged on dresser, carried to car with one on, kicked off as tossed on bed, jeans on, both said shorts, hard dressing a corpse, dressed for school, in my opinion. Yeah. I definitely think Kylie's family is set apart in the sus department. Right. And again, with the billions of dollars, the 33.8, I think was the number that Shan found, $1 billion of government contracts that Scammy's parents have control over for the entire decade of the 2020s. Yeah. Could it be, I've asked this many times, could it be that Kylie's granddad's 25-year lawsuit with the government over the water rights or the land management? I think it's over water rights. But that ongoing litigation, Scammy's parents were representing the government. And could that have been maybe not as acrimonious as I thought at the beginning? Could it be that that was an intentional pretend acrimonious relationship to keep the contracts coming in? So it's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So they were continuing this long litigation. So the government is got Scammy's parents on their payroll for 25 plus years just with that one case. And then if they got 34 billion dollars of contracts, is Kylie's granddad saying, where's my cut? when you've got giant amounts of money, you always got people getting cuts. It's not just the main people. There's going to be a whole Rico cabinet of people, so to speak. It's a weird world. It's a wild world. Yeah. Aged out, pregnant, and talking of running away. Oh, for Kylie, aged out. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the timing is everything. She was a month before turning 17. And hadn't she filed for emancipation? And she was going off to college, whether that was going to be community college or UC Santa Cruz, or was it Harvard she was looking at? It was one of those fancy schools on the East Coast, like Princeton, Yale, Harvard, I think, allegedly. 8 hours, bloated, stiff, gaseous, and in my opinion, recent choke. Are you talking about Maddie? Maddie also left birthday money at grandma's. Mom needed more Botox. SF video to the rescue. Oh, dang. Annie, you are a little too sharp for me. You're killing me with that information. It's so gross. Like I said, I just got to hurl. But thank you for going straight to the truth and not sugarcoating it, because sometimes it's hard to know what you mean if you try to say it more gently. Maddie aged out. Oh, dang, Annie, I can't read the rest of that. Public hair turn off. Well, they could just shave. I mean, everybody does these days. Interesting, both cases involve SF too, but you just never know with people, Sigali. Yeah, so yeah, I'm not trusting his involvement with Hannah's case. I was thinking everything was fine with Hannah's case, that it was just much ado about nothing, until SF was saying, oh, everything's fine. She's just off on her own and nobody needs to worry about her. Then I thought, wait, what? Does that mean she's being trafficked and we all need to worry about her? Because seriously, people get trafficked. And when they do, it's not if they do, it's when they do, how do they get underground so that they're not on anybody's radar, so that they're off grid? Like, this would be how. You have the police make an official announcement that they crossed over, and nothing to see over here, folks, in my opinion. I'm going to wrap on that. Love and light. Thanks again. You guys are the best. I love you. I'll see you soon. This is like 4 days in a row. How exciting is that? SF told us last week Hannah was on her own. Okay. Hitting the end stream button. Thanks again, you guys. You're the bomb, diggity. And see you soon.